Hey friends, welcome to our channel. We're very excited. Drew and I finally decided on a bit of branding for our channel, so we're unveiling our official name. Prior to this, we were just going by Drew and Raina React until we could kind of figure out the feel for the channel. So our new name is Instant Movie Reviews.
With Raina and Drew, and I'm Drew.
And I'm Raina. He's Raina, I'm Drew. I'm really excited about it because I like the way it rolls off the tongue. Instant Movie Reviews with Raina and Drew. Like,
kind of rhymes.
It's really cool like that. And one of the reasons we decided to push our branding forward a little bit is we're now starting to get offers for free movies. So that's really exciting, and we're going to save that for our next video because we are going to a sponsored movie, and I don't want to give all the details away. Before we get into the movie we're seeing today, we saw one on the weekend.
We did. We saw Thunderbolts Asterisk, and we were excited because the reviews were great, so we were expecting it to be good, but we weren't expecting it to actually make us cry more than once. So
we decided not to do a full video on it because we have 3 movies in a short period of time to accommodate the free movies that we're getting to go see. And it's just a lot for editing, and it's a lot for us to try to do it. And sometimes you just want to be in the moment in the film and not have to worry about the prep and everything. And also, I feel like there's a lot of content out there for Marvel. Like,
yeah, they don't need our review, but our mini review we're giving you now is I gave it a 9 out of 10. I think you were somewhere around there too.
I'd say like an 8 out of 10 for me. It definitely made me tear up, and it was really fun, and it had a lot of heart. It had a lot of heart. I don't know that it's going to be the most memorable, but I did read that it's the end of that phase.
Yeah.
And out of all of those films, I think it's one of the stronger films. I think Ant-Man and the Wasp was maybe the bottom for me. I know a lot of people put the Marvels on the bottom, but
it's Eternals for me.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed it though, and the message hit home, and it reminded me a lot of Sailor Moon. And I've said that to a few people now. The Moonies get it. The Moonies get it, yeah. But today, we're seeing something else. What are we seeing today, Drew?
We are going to see our first video game adaptation. So we are going to see Until Dawn, based on the PlayStation 4 video game. I hear it's quite loosely based on the video game. That's rubbed some people the wrong way, but this is a series that is sort of an anthology. So there have been follow-ups called the Dark Pictures Anthology. So each one is a similar play style, but completely different cast, completely different stories, unrelated. So I'm like, this to me, this just kind of feels like a Dark Pictures movie. So I'm not upset if it doesn't like adapt the story of Until Dawn, the video game.
I think it would be really cool. What was the guy? He was like the curator or the narrator or something, the curator. So I am not a very good gamer, and I ended up watching all of these games, just playthroughs and watching the movie clips online. I don't have a PlayStation, and they only came to PC gaming recently, and they've been out forever. So I only have a computer to play games on and a Steam Deck, so I didn't get to play them yet. I did buy a few of them on sale so that now that I can actually go back and enjoy it. But out of all of them, I do find that Until Dawn is the strongest one.
Yeah, for me, my favorite in the series, I brought props today, is House of Ashes, which I didn't expect because it was like a military-based one in like Iraq or somewhere in the Middle East, and it looked like it was going to be very rah-rah American military style.
There's been a few times where I thought that was being adapted into a movie, where I've seen a trailer and I've been like, ooh, this seems like House of Ashes.
If they do House of Ashes and they do it correctly, it could be one of the greatest action horror movies of all time. But not House of Ashes. This is Until Dawn, which sort of does, in this movie version, kind of a time loop sort of thing. It reminds me a little bit of Happy Death Day. So these characters have to try to survive until dawn. There's the title. But they keep getting killed off each loop by different things. So it's not the same thing. Like Happy Death Day, it was the baby mask killer each time that killed her. But in this movie, each loop is a brand new sort of horror trope or horror monster that attacks them.
So, and it seems like a lot of the diehards of the video game were mad about this before they even got to see it. I remember watching the trailer and then trailer reactions and people being like, just don't call it Until Dawn, call it something else, because it's not Until Dawn. And they're really concerned that there's not enough from the video game, and they just want it to be called something else. But the reviews for it from non-gamers and then gamers who are a little more chill are basically like, it's a really fun horror movie. Don't go in expecting it to be a replica of the game. But I feel like Silent Hill was like that too.
Yeah, Silent Hill took some creative liberties with the story, but it was still about the same thing. Like, the video game Until Dawn had nothing to do with time looping. Once characters died in that game, if they died, they were gone for good. Whereas this is a very sci-fi, supernatural kind of bent on it. But again, I'm not bothered by that. Like, it sort of reminds me too of Cabin in the Woods, and I absolutely love that movie. So, you know, I like Until Dawn. I like all the Dark Pictures games, but I'm keeping an open mind for this one, and I really like the director. He's the same guy who did Lights Out and Annabelle Creation. So he sort of saved the Annabelle franchise. The first Annabelle movie I just didn't love, and then Annabelle Creation I thought was a real step
Annabelle
up.
Creation. And then what was the third one?
Annabelle Comes Home.
Annabelle Comes Home was one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. Like, I'm really surprised they haven't done a spin-off of some of the other characters in it, or maybe they did.
I think they were planning on doing the Crooked Man from Conjuring 2, and that kind of fell apart. But
oh man, I just remember the ferryman and his
eyes, the coin eyes, yeah,
and the bride, and
yeah, there were actually elements in Thunderbolts that kind of reminded me of that. But.
That's so funny. Anyway, we're gonna go see Until Dawn, and we're really just gonna give it a chance and not worry about what other people have said. We'll give you our instant movie reaction when we get out of the theater. I need the little asterisks in the trademark TM. So let's go to the movies.
We'll see you in a few.
Well, that was a thing.
It was a thing.
I have not played the game in a really, really long time. I actually never played it. I watched it, like I said at the beginning. And I couldn't remember a lot of the stuff. How would you say it stacks up against the game? Was it very connected to the game?
So, it's been a long time. Until Dawn is not a new game. A remake came out last year that wasn't particularly well received, but I actually started the PlayStation 5 remake last night.
Okay.
Just to prepare myself a little bit, mainly to remind myself of the characters and setting. I didn't expect to finish it. I ended up playing it longer than I expected to because I really forgot how much I liked Until Dawn. But this was a completely different setting. So the game takes place in like an old hotel that's been converted into like a chalet. And the premise was a little bit similar. There's a disappearance in both the movie and the game that
with siblings.
Yeah,
I remember
characters that are getting back together on the 1-year anniversary of this disappearance.
And Wendigos are a big factor between the two games. And they showed a Wendigo in the trailer, so that's not a spoiler.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different monsters in this, which is why I said it reminded me of Cabin in the Woods, because towards the end of that you get like evil mermaids and dolls.
They definitely, in my opinion, took inspiration from Cabin in the Woods, for sure. Mm-hmm. Definitely. There were some mechanics of how things worked that was similar to Cabin in the Woods. It reminded me of another game, Dead by Daylight?
Dead by Daylight.
Dead by Daylight. So it actually reminded me way more of Dead by Daylight than it did of Until Dawn. I can't even say all those two game titles together. Just because you do get so many variety of villains, and it really captured the cat and mouse, I found, of playing a game that relies heavily on running and hiding. Like your melee combat isn't going to do much. Like it might do a little, like if you're face to face, but your main way to survive in these survival horror games is to be good with your hiding kind of thing. Stealth.
So again, like there's what appears to be a masked killer in both the game and here, but it's sort of hard for me to describe. I didn't finish my Until Dawn playthrough. There's one character actually literally from the game who returns in this, and it's the same actor who plays him in the game. but they went in a different direction that I remember. Maybe when I finish my replay of Until Dawn, I'll be like, okay, that's in line with what they do with that character. But as I was watching that movie, I was like, that's not how I remember this character being used.
Me either. And I think that is one of the complaints people had before the movie even came out, is kind of using him in a way that nobody really liked.
Yeah, and again, like, I'm fine with an adaptation that does its own thing. I don't need to have the video game retold to me, as long as it's respectful of the original source material. Like the first Silent Hill movie, I thought, pulled that off for the most part.
Or like The Last of Us is doing right now with this series. It's filling in the gaps, and when it is changing things, they're not major changes. They're just changes that make a bit more sense for the story.
But this has the time loop, which the game did not.
I think that was literally meant to represent when you die and respawn in a game. Like, I think that's what it was meant to.
But that doesn't make sense for an Until Dawn adaptation, because the way that the game works is if you screw up and you make the wrong decision and a character dies, the game autosaves. You can't go back and undo it. Like, I accidentally killed one of my favorite characters during my playthrough last night. I was like, oh, I'll just reload my save. Nope. She's gone. There's nothing I can do unless I start it over again.
It's a bit like a Telltale game, and choices matter, and that's kind of the ending you're committing to once you go through that. I really felt it was a bit reminiscent of like an early 2000s horror movie.
Yeah.
It felt very gimmicky in that way. Some of the strong points for me was that the audio did actually come across like a video game. And it actually felt at times, even though you weren't in first person, you did kind of get that immersion of trying to be strategic in the game, and like you're looking around and it's showing the characters look around corners and stuff. And
like shining the flashlight around, which is a major part of the gameplay of Until Dawn. One thing that I find that Until Dawn and the Dark Pictures games and The Quarry, basically all of these narrative, character-driven horror games by this particular video game company, is the characters I find are quite well developed, and you get a sense for them pretty quickly. The characters in this felt a bit more generic.
They felt so generic. I don't know who any of the actors are. I'm going to go home and IMDb them and see if I've seen them in anything else.
I recognize the name of one. So Max, the sort of love interest guy, played by Michael Cimino, I think his name is. And I feel like maybe he was in the MCU Spider-Man movies. Maybe he was...
you think he was Flash?
I think he was Flash. I could be wrong.
I'll put it up if we're right, but if we're wrong, I'm sure YouTube will tell us.
And what the games do a good job of is in each project there's one or two big name actors. So in the original Until Dawn video game, it's Hayden Panettiere from like Heroes and Scream 4, as well as Rami Malek, who went on to be Oscar nominated for
and there was
and like in some of the Dark Pictures games, it's like Sean Astin was in one, and Jesse Buckley was in another. There wasn't a big name actor to anchor this, and I feel like if you're going to do Until Dawn, put one really big actor in here, and then surround it by a bunch of nobodies. But this was just a bunch of nobodies.
I do remember, even though it's been so long from the game, I do remember, like, it's their graduation at first, is it? Or like, when they're all together in the beginning?
No, at the very beginning, they're just having, like, a holiday in this old former hotel that's owned by...
Okay, I just remember the sense of community. Like, the characters were all connected.
They were best friends, and they were reuniting 1 year after the mysterious disappearance of two of the sister characters.
One of my criticisms of this is it's trying to drive home friendship, but they don't feel like friends. I don't know. I just didn't buy the chemistry between all the characters, and I wasn't very invested in the characters.
And like, there's kind of a jock bro type character in this, the way Until Dawn also had the character of Michael. But Michael is just such a lovable dork in the Until Dawn game that even though he's kind of an idiot, I just couldn't help but root for the guy. There wasn't any particular character in this movie that I was like, I will be sad if this character does not make it through. And that's weird for me. Usually I will get attached and be like, okay, at least this person and this person should survive. They literally all could have died, and I don't think I would have cared.
Yeah, I felt the same way. And honestly, I couldn't tell in the last 5 minutes, are we going to have a final girl? Is everyone going to survive? Is everyone going to die? Are some of them going to survive? Like, I really just couldn't tell leading up to it what was going to happen. And I actually think that they probably could have made a more devastating ending, and the whole movie would have resonated a little
Yeah.
bit more if they did.
Yeah, I've never gotten through any of these games with all the characters surviving, and it's always impactful when they die because the games do such a much better job of making you care about these people. Again, they're not particularly deep characters, but they're just the way they're presented. There was just something so generic about these characters that I was like, if they make it, great. If they don't, oh well.
I think the only reason this made it to theaters is because it's attached to the game.
Yeah.
I feel like if it didn't have that game, it would have just been like a straight to streaming kind of film. And that being said, as much as I love telling you to go see stuff in the theater, I'm not sure I would say this was worth seeing in the theater.
You could see this one at home and you wouldn't lose any of the experience. Actually, it might slightly enhance the experience. I don't know if it was like this for you, but towards the end there's a lot of chase sequences in very like dark spaces with very chaotic camera, and I was having a hard time making out like what's happening.
What's actually happening, and feeling a little motion sickness at times too. Yeah. So for me, it's one of the lower end of horror movies I've seen. I think most of the horror movies I've seen recently in the past year or so, I'd rate them pretty high. Even the werewolf one, which I was not a huge fan of how they handled it, and I know the internet was similar and had mixed reactions, I think I would still put it higher than this.
Me too. Me too.
So my rating of this is going to be my first like really low rating. I'm going to give it a 5. And the 5, like the positives of it were I thought it had good music. I thought it had good soundtrack. I thought the mechanics of it were interesting, but I also didn't understand them totally. Like one of the characters tries to explain it at one part, and okay, like yes, we know from the trailer it resets every time they die. Why? I never really understood it.
Nobody's death can restart in the game, so I don't know why they added it.
So
to
it's
this.
hinted at, and Drew kind of made some good connections to the game, and has like a theory which we can't really share because we don't want to.
Yeah, and I mean that's just it. So there's one returning character. There's another character who's actually name dropped. You see his picture. So this clearly is supposed to take place after the original Until Dawn, and in the same universe. Yeah, you thought it was like a sequel maybe to the game. It is, but the rules and the mechanics of it are completely different. So I'm just like, okay, there was no such thing as a time loop in the original game, but I guess this is a quasi-sequel.
Like I never really understood, why is this happening to them? Why is this location the way it is? Why are there all these demons? And it tries to explain like the origins of the Wendigo. And in the game, you get an answer to that. But in the movie, it's more hinted at. And because I couldn't remember the game, I was asking Drew. I was like, so how are people becoming Wendigos? Like, I don't remember. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. So for me, it's a 5. And I almost want to go lower than that, except that it is like, I think if you didn't have expectations and you don't connect to the game, and I agree with other reviewers who say, like, you could just go in and have fun. Like, I feel like teenagers would really enjoy this one. It's a good popcorn flick, have your friends over and watch for a sleepover or something. It's the right amount of gore and ridiculousness that I feel like teen boys would giggle over it and stuff. But it just didn't really do it for me, and it's not like a butt in the theater movie for me. So what about you?
So I'm going to have to give it actually 2 different ratings. Again, like, I'm a big gamer. I played the original game. So as an adaptation / quasi-sequel to Until Dawn, I'm going to give it like a 3 out of 10. Like it just doesn't feel like it fits in that same world. It'd be fine if they took an anthology approach like the other games in the series that are not connected. They're just their own story with their own characters and their own rules. But as an adaptation, it fails. Just as a straight horror movie, I'm in 5 out of 10 territory, maybe even 4.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything that particularly scared me.
There were no jump scares. Like, it's funny, I kept expecting jump scares, and I would go like this because they would build the tension. But then everything was so obvious.
Well, they tried a couple with like something like suddenly going like at the camera.
Yeah, but that was like a montage of stuff too, and that kind of took away from it. I found,
and
it was like jump after jump after jump.
Some of those scenes in that montage were in the trailer and made me think that we're going to get a much bigger variety of between loops. What is the nature of the thing that's attacking or menacing them? But with the exception of one that's really goofy but surprisingly important to the story. Each one time it's just either a Wendigo or a guy in a mask.
And it's so weird because the evil character kind of hints that this is like the main girl's psychology or something, but then he doesn't really go into that either.
Yeah,
and
I was like, are we going into Silent Hill territory?
Like, I was
now?
like, exactly. So for like a minute there, I was like, okay, so is she in a psych ward and this is a manifestation of stuff
I would have been
I
would have been so mad if that had been.
Or it's like, is she in some kind of VR PTSD thing that she's like trying to do stuff? And I don't know, like it was just, it didn't land for me. And Drew and I tend to be generous raters. So we're giving it a 5. I feel like everyone else is going to give it a 3 or a 4, but we're nice Canadians.
Well, it's just that, again, like you said, it felt like something from the mid-2000s era of generic, I don't want to say PG-13 because that was a pretty violent movie, but it felt like, Darkness Falls, Dead Silence, those goofy movies that don't have a lot of internal logic, that don't bother to try to really have internal logic. But that's not where we're at with horror anymore. Where we're at with
sometimes that can work.
Yes.
Like Drag Me to Hell was like a B movie, but it became beloved because of that. Because
even the monkey and all of its goofy, wacky silliness was still more engaging to me than that.
Yeah. I don't think I will even think of this movie again. Like, they could come out with another Dark Pictures game and I'd probably forget this movie existed. Yeah. A year from now, I'm not going to remember that I saw this movie.
The best thing about this movie is getting me to start the game again to prepare myself for it, because last night I was like, I really forgot how much I liked this game and these characters. And I know that I said that it doesn't have to be a straight adaptation. I would have much preferred to see those characters and that setting, because this one's characters and setting felt far more generic. You'll lose like the snowy mountain, old hotel. Again, that's kind of derivative of The Shining, but you know what I mean? Like, the setting of this was just like, I have seen this over and over again, and I'm going to see it.
It really did feel like Cabin in the Woods, except Cabin in the Woods did it better.
Cabin in the Woods was far more creative than that, and I think it kind of wanted to be Cabin in the Woods, but didn't have the cleverness to pull it off.
Give us the fourth wall if you're going to do something like that. And they could have. They could have. They had the steps there to do it, and they didn't. But so there you have it. We're giving it a generous 5. We may reevaluate, but you don't need to go see this one in theater. Just wait for streaming if you're like a diehard fan of the franchise.
Yeah,
you might hate it if you're a diehard fan.
If you see it like on Netflix or something on some Friday night when you're not doing anything else, feel free to pop it on, and maybe you'll enjoy it more than we did. But I just feel like horror has been bringing something to the table, and that really didn't bring much of anything to the table.
We have been stepping up in horror in the past 2 years. Sinners is just like breaking box office records right now, and I think it's showing it's showing production companies that, like, you want to back good horror, and we are going to be willing to invest the time and money to make good horror.
Yeah. And Final Destination Bloodlines, I've only watched the teaser trailer. I haven't watched the full trailer because I don't want to spoil it, but even that teaser with the guy in the tattoo piercing shop just looks fun and interesting and has got me interested in that franchise again. This just felt a bit lazy.
Yeah, it did feel lazy. So that's our review of Until Dawn. We have a few more movies lined up. We're going to go see another one this Wednesday. What are we seeing this Wednesday?
We are seeing Sharp Corner.
And it's our first invite to a movie where we're getting free tickets from the studio. Elevation Pictures hooked us up, and we're going to go see that, and we get to meet somebody there.
We get to meet the director.
And it's an early screening, so this film is going to be rolling out. It's based on a short story. The trailer stresses me out. I debated reading the short story, but I think I'd rather be surprised.
I'm not going to.
Yeah, I think I'd rather be surprised. So we're looking forward to filming that for you. So these reviews are going to come up pretty quickly, one after the other.
Lilo and Stitch is coming up.
Looks
adorable.
There's something else coming out at the end of May too that we were interested in, but it's left my mind now.
Yeah, it's left mine too. Final Destination Bloodlines and Lilo and Stitch are the two most immediate ones after Sharp Corner that I think we're going to see. But I'll look at the release schedule. Maybe we'll squeeze another one in if something looks interesting.
Well, we have to see Final Destination for this guy's birthday, actually. Well, anyway, we are so glad that you're watching our videos. We hit 30 subscribers, Drew. That's a big milestone for a brand new channel. It's only been going for like 6 weeks, I think. So please like and subscribe. Click the bell if you want an email notification. Drew and I are working on a logo, so that should be good. We just have to make some decisions around that. And we just really love hearing from you. We have a few fans and friends who pretty routinely comment on stuff, which is nice. So shout out to Dave.
And again, like, share these videos if you think that your friends or family might enjoy hearing our perspectives, because, you know, we both come from things from, our ratings tend to be similar, but I think we come at things from a different angle.
Yeah, a different perspective. So we'd like to hear your perspective too. And I always give a lot of thought to what people say, but I think we are kind of unique because we are trying really hard not to give you spoilers. And sometimes when a movie has been out for a bit and I've sat and I've thought about it, I think, man, I really would like to revisit that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe this winter when all these things hit streaming, we may do follow-up reviews where we actually get into the meat of the story and discuss stuff. We'll just have to see how things go.
Our not so instant movie reviews.
Not so instant, yeah. All right, guys, thanks so much, and we'll see you at the movies.
See you soon.